The unknown looms. The void of space stretched endlessly, its infinite blackness broken only by distant faint stars. The alien vessel Luminara glided silently through the dark, its sleek, silver form a masterpiece of Confederation engineering. Captain Ardent Veller stood at the helm, his bioluminescent skin casting a soft glow across the bridge. The mission was clear: explore uncharted territory beyond the edge of known space. But what lay ahead would test not only their understanding of the cosmos, but the very fabric of their beliefs. "Captain, anomalous readings detected," announced First Observer Yurna, her compound eyes flickering with alertness. She turned to her display, where streams of alien data pulsed in patterns of light. "There's a cluster of energy signatures 2 light minutes away. Highly structured. Artificial." Veller frowned, his tendrils curling in thought. The Confederation prided itself on cataloging every known civilization. Yet this was unfamiliar. "Display it." The main screen shimmered to life, revealing a thermal map of the region. Dozens of energy signatures moved with precision, their patterns unerringly deliberate. At the center of the formation, a massive source burned like a miniature star. Veller's eyes widened. "That is not one of ours," he murmured. "The unknown reveals itself." "Approaching vessels," Yurna reported, her voice taut with both excitement and caution. "They're heading directly for us." "Impossible," Veller said, his voice edged with disbelief. "Our stealth systems are flawless." "They're scanning us, Captain," interjected Tactical Officer Kren, his barbed arms twitching nervously. "Every inch of our hull, our systems, exposed." Veller straightened. "Open a channel. Let's see who they are before they decide to vaporize us." Before Yurna could comply, the Luminara's displays flickered violently. A transmission forced its way through their systems, overriding their controls. A figure appeared, a being unlike any they had encountered. The alien was humanoid, with pale, unscaled skin and an expression that radiated calm authority. Clad in a dark, structured uniform adorned with strange insignias, the being's voice carried a tone of quiet command. "This is Admiral Julian Reed of the United Earth Space Alliance," the being declared. "You have entered human-controlled space. State your identity and intentions." Veller froze. The words were clear, perfectly translated. But it wasn't the message that stole his breath. It was the scene behind the Admiral. The bridge of the human vessel was vast, its walls brimming with technology, unlike anything the Confederation had encountered. Holographic displays and interfaces moved fluidly around the crew, who operated with precision and confidence. "This is Captain Ardent Veller of the Confederation exploration ship Luminara," he began, fighting to keep his voice steady. "We are peaceful explorers cataloging this region. We were unaware this sector was claimed." Reed's expression softened, though a trace of tension lingered. "Peaceful intentions are welcome here, Captain Veller. However, our protocols demand caution. Perhaps you would like to come aboard and discuss your mission in person." Veller hesitated. The invitation was both a gesture of goodwill and a clear show of dominance. Declining would only sow distrust. "We would be honored, Admiral," he said finally. "But I must ask, how did you detect us? Our stealth systems are unparalleled." Reed's lips curled into a faint smile. "Humanity has learned the importance of vigilance, Captain. Let's just say we've mastered the art of looking where others do not. An encounter of unequals." As the transmission ended, Veller turned to his crew. "Thoughts?" Kren exhaled sharply. "Their ships are war vessels, Captain. Look at their formations, their energy output. They're built for destruction." "But why such power in the void?" Yurna countered. "There's no immediate threat here." Veller's mind raced. "Perhaps we'll find our answers aboard their ship." The human fleet loomed closer, its scale growing ever more intimidating. At the heart of the formation, the flagship, a colossal vessel marked with the name Indomitable, dominated the void. Its sleek, angular design bristled with weaponry, and yet it moved with a grace that defied its size. "Prepare a shuttle," Veller ordered. "We're about to meet a species unlike any other." As the Luminara drew closer to the human fleet, Veller felt a surge of apprehension and excitement. This encounter could redefine the Confederation's understanding of the galaxy, or end in catastrophic misunderstanding. One thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same. Aboard the Indomitable. The shuttle from the Luminara glided silently toward the Indomitable, dwarfed by the sheer magnitude of the human flagship. Its surface shimmered with an array of lights and sensors, a living monument to human ingenuity. Captain Ardent Veller sat rigid in the shuttle's command seat, his tendrils coiled tightly against his chest, a telltale sign of unease. His crew, equally tense, sat in silence, their luminous eyes locked on the massive vessel before them. "Captain," First Observer Yurna said quietly, breaking the stillness, "this ship, it's unlike anything we've ever encountered. Every design element screams efficiency and power." Veller nodded, though his gaze remained fixed on the Indomitable. "And yet, it moves with elegance. It's a paradox, Yurna. Power tempered by precision." As the shuttle neared the docking bay, they were greeted by an unexpected sight. A magnetic field shimmered to life, opening an entrance large enough to swallow a dozen Confederation ships. The humans had anticipated their arrival and prepared a welcome. "Docking sequence initiated," Veller announced. "Remember, we represent more than ourselves. Whatever happens here, we must conduct ourselves with dignity and caution." The first human welcome. The shuttle settled with a soft thud inside the cavernous docking bay. The interior was bustling with human activity. Crew members in crisp uniforms moved with purpose, and automated machines whirred as they performed their tasks. Veller's crew exchanged uneasy glances. The humans' apparent lack of fear or hesitation was unnerving. As the shuttle's hatch hissed open, Veller was met by the imposing figure of Admiral Julian Reed. Up close, the human was even more alien. No protective membranes, no bioluminescence, no sensory tendrils. His features were sharp, his posture commanding. Yet his expression held warmth, a sign of the diplomacy Veller had hoped for. "Welcome aboard the Indomitable, Captain Veller," Reed said, extending a hand in a gesture that Veller understood to be a human greeting. After a brief pause, Veller mirrored the motion, their limbs briefly connecting in an exchange that felt symbolic of their species' vast differences. "We are honored by your invitation, Admiral," Veller replied, his voice measured. "Your vessel is extraordinary." Reed's lips quirked into a smile. "Thank you. She's the pride of our fleet. If you'll follow me, we've prepared a space for our discussion." The walk through innovation. The corridor leading to the meeting room was unlike anything Veller had ever seen. Sleek metal walls pulsed faintly with an energy that seemed alive, and holographic displays floated mid-air, projecting schematics and data streams. Human crew members walked past with brisk efficiency, some sparing curious glances at the alien delegation, but none lingering. The humans were clearly accustomed to discipline. "Your technology is advanced," Veller said, breaking the silence as they walked. "I must admit, the Confederation has no record of anything like this." Reed glanced back, his expression unreadable. "We've had to innovate quickly, Captain. Survival demands it." Veller caught the weight in Reed's words. There was a story there, one he hoped to uncover during their dialogue. When they reached the meeting room, Veller was surprised to find it unadorned, almost stark in its simplicity. A long table stretched the length of the room, with chairs neatly arranged on either side. Screens embedded in the walls displayed a rotating series of data, charts, maps, and what appeared to be starship schematics. "Please," Reed gestured toward the seats, "make yourselves comfortable." An uneasy dialogue. As they settled in, Veller took the opportunity to observe the humans more closely. They lacked the protective adaptations of most species, yet their physicality radiated strength. It was as if their evolution had chosen resilience over defense. He couldn't help but wonder what challenges had forged such a species. "Our mission is simple," Viller began, his voice steady. "We seek knowledge and understanding. Exploration is at the heart of the Confederation." "And yet," Reed interjected, "you venture into unknown space cloaked in stealth. That suggests caution or fear." Viller hesitated. "Both, perhaps. The unknown is as much a threat as it is an opportunity." Reed nodded, his expression thoughtful. "That's something we understand well. Humanity has faced many unknowns, Captain. Some we've overcome. Others, not yet." Viller leaned forward, intrigued. "Your technology, your fleet, it suggests preparation for conflict. Yet you speak of understanding. What, then, are you preparing for?" Reed's gaze hardened ever so slightly. "We prepare for survival, Captain. Out here, the universe isn't kind. We've learned that lesson the hard way." The room fell silent for a moment, the weight of Reed's words settling over the group. Viller felt the stirrings of both respect and unease. The humans were not just explorers, they were survivors, a test of trust. As the conversation continued, Viller began to see glimpses of the human story. Their history was one of struggle and resilience, marked by conflicts that had driven their technological advancement at an extraordinary pace. Yet beneath their formidable exterior, there was a genuine curiosity, a desire to connect. "Admiral," Viller said finally, "you've extended a hand of peace to us, and we are grateful. But I must ask, what do you hope to gain from this exchange?" Reed met his gaze, unflinching. "Understanding, cooperation, if it's possible, and perhaps a glimpse into what lies beyond our borders." Viller nodded slowly. "Then let us ensure this encounter is the beginning of something greater." As they stood to leave, Reed extended his hand once more. This time, Viller accepted without hesitation. For better or worse, the future of their species was now intertwined. A fractured universe. The Luminara shuttle departed the Indomitable with a strange air of optimism and uncertainty. Captain Arden Viller sat in the co-pilot's chair, his luminous eyes fixed on the shrinking human flagship. Though the exchange with Admiral Reed had been cordial, questions lingered in Veller's mind. The humans had revealed glimpses of their resilience and ingenuity, but there was something unspoken, something heavy, that shadowed their words. "Captain," First Observer Yerna said, her voice breaking through his thoughts, "their technology is staggering, but it feels reactive, not proactive. It's like everything they've built is designed to counter a threat. But what could possibly require such measures?" Viller didn't respond immediately. The human fleet's sheer scale and firepower were not designed for mere exploration. They were preparing for a war, one the Confederation had no knowledge of. "Yerna," Viller finally said, "when a species evolves without natural defenses, it must compensate in other ways. The humans are not predators, they're survivors, and survival often means expecting the worst." Yerna nodded but remained uneasy. "Do you believe they're telling us the full story?" Veller's tendrils twitched slightly, a sign of his uncertainty. "No, but I believe they want us to know enough to understand the stakes." The unexpected transmission. As the shuttle approached the Luminara, a sudden burst of static filled the comm systems. The familiar tones of their Confederation frequencies were replaced by a harsh, erratic signal. Veller's crew exchanged uneasy glances as the distorted voice crackled through the speakers. "Confederation vessel Luminara, this is an urgent distress signal. Unknown entities. Attacking outpost. Coordinates transmitted. Assistance required." The message repeated, fragmented and distorted, but the coordinates were clear. Veller's heart sank. The outpost mentioned was on the outermost edge of the Confederation's reach, dangerously close to the region controlled by the humans. "Captain," Tactical Officer Kren said, his barbed limbs rigid with tension, "this could be a trap. The timing is too coincidental." "Perhaps," Viller replied, his voice calm but firm. "But if it's not, we cannot ignore it. Prepare the Luminara for immediate departure." Yerna hesitated. "Captain, should we inform the humans?" Velar considered this. The humans had offered cooperation, but trust was still fragile. However, the distress call's proximity to their space made it impossible to ignore their potential involvement. "Send a message to Admiral Reed," Velar decided. "Inform him of the signal and our intent to investigate. If they are involved, we'll need to know." The race to respond. The Luminara hurtled through the void at maximum velocity, its engines humming with a subdued urgency. On the bridge, Velar and his crew analyzed the limited data from the distress signal. The attackers were unidentified, their energy signatures unlike anything in the Confederation's database. "Captain," Yerna said, her tone laced with worry, "this doesn't match any known patterns. Whatever attacked that outpost is either new or something we've never encountered before." Velar's tendrils flexed with determination. "Then we must be prepared for anything. Bring all defensive systems online. I want full sensor sweeps the moment we enter the system." As the Luminara neared the coordinates, the magnitude of the situation became clear. The outpost, a small research station, was little more than debris now. Fragments of its structure drifted aimlessly, glowing faintly from residual energy. Yet, among the wreckage, something else lingered. "Energy signatures detected," Kren reported, his voice taut. "Multiple vessels. They're cloaked, but their emissions are faintly visible." "Put it on screen," Velar ordered. The main display flickered, revealing ghostly outlines of unfamiliar ships. Their designs were jagged, chaotic, nothing like the refined symmetry of Confederation or even human vessels. They'd radiated menace, their purpose unmistakable. "Hostile intent confirmed," Yerna said grimly. "They're scanning us. An unlikely ally." Before Velar could issue orders, the comm system activated again, but this time, the voice was human. "Luminara, this is Admiral Reed aboard the Indomitable. We've detected the same signal and are en route to assist. Do not engage until we arrive." Velar frowned. "Admiral, we're already in the system. The attackers are present, and they've noticed us." Reed's voice remained calm but firm. "Understood, Captain. Hold your position. These aren't just raiders. There's something far worse." Before Velar could ask for clarification, the hostile ships began to move. Their jagged forms glided toward the Luminara with unsettling coordination. Velar's crew braced for impact. "Captain," Kren said, his voice urgent, "they're charging weapons." "Evasive maneuvers," Velar barked. "Prepare to return fire." The Luminara darted through the debris field, narrowly avoiding the first barrage of energy blasts. The hostile ships pursued relentlessly, their weapons carving fiery trails through the void. Velar's crew worked in perfect synchronization, their actions honed by years of training. But the attackers were relentless. For every maneuver the Luminara executed, the hostiles adapted with unnerving speed. It was clear they were outmatched. "Captain," Yerna said, her voice shaking, "we can't hold them off much longer." Just as hope began to waver, a brilliant flash lit up the void. From hyperspace emerged the Indomitable and its fleet, their weapons blazing with precision. The human ships moved with a deadly grace, cutting through the attackers with brutal efficiency. A shared threat. The attackers scattered under the human assault, retreating into the void. The Indomitable transmitted a message to the Luminara, and Velar quickly opened the channel. "Captain Velar," Reed said, his expression grave, "you've just encountered what we call the Harbingers. They're not pirates. They're precursors to something far worse." Velar's tendrils coiled tightly. "What are they?" Reed's gaze hardened. "The remnants of an ancient civilization, one bent on consuming everything in its path. They're why we build our ships the way we do. And now, they know you exist." The weight of Reed's words sank into Velar. The Confederation had thought itself prepared for the unknown, but this encounter had shattered that illusion. "What do we do now?" Vaylor asked quietly. Reed's expression softened, though his resolve remained unshaken. "Now we prepare. Together." In that moment, Vaylor understood. Humanity's resilience wasn't born from strength alone, but from the ability to face the unthinkable and survive. Beneath the veil of stars, the Luminara floated silently in the aftermath of the skirmish, its hull faintly glowing as repair drones patched minor damage. Captain Vaylor stood on the observation deck, gazing into the void where the Harbingers had vanished. Despite the calm exterior, his mind was anything but. The revelation of the Harbingers, a name that carried an ominous weight, had shifted everything he thought he knew about the galaxy. "Captain," Yerna's voice came through the comm panel. "Admiral Reed has requested a private discussion. He says it's urgent." Vaylor turned from the stars, his luminous eyes narrowing. Humanity had proven itself as an ally, but their knowledge of these Harbingers hinted at deeper secrets. "Patch him through to the deck," Vaylor replied, straightening his stance. Moments later, the holographic image of Admiral Reed materialized before him. "Captain Vaylor," Reed began, his tone grim but composed, "thank you for holding the line until we arrived. Your actions gave us just enough time to intercept." "Admiral," Vaylor replied, his voice even, "your intervention was timely. But the question remains, how long have you known about these Harbingers? And why does the Confederation know nothing of them?" Reed's jaw tightened, his hesitation noticeable. "The Harbingers are not just a threat to humanity, Captain. They're a threat to everything. And until now, we believed we were the only ones capable of facing them." Humanity's hidden war. Reed's holographic form shifted slightly, as if to steady himself before continuing. 2 centuries ago, humanity's expansion into space brought us into contact with the remnants of a civilization far older than any we'd encountered. We called them the Harbingers because wherever their presence was found, destruction followed. Vaylor folded his arms, his tendrils coiling in a mix of intrigue and skepticism. "You encountered them 2 centuries ago, and never thought to warn others." Reed's gaze hardened. "When we first discovered them, we underestimated the threat. By the time we understood their true nature, the Harbingers had already wiped out 3 of our colonies. We couldn't risk sharing this knowledge openly. Panic would have fractured our alliances and left us vulnerable." The weight of Reed's words pressed down on Vaylor. While secrecy could be understood in times of crisis, withholding such vital information bordered on arrogance. "What exactly are they?" Vaylor asked, his voice quieter now, tinged with unease. "They're machines," Reed said bluntly. "Not like anything we've ever seen. Self-replicating, adaptive, and driven by an insatiable purpose: to consume and assimilate all organic life." Vaylor felt a chill run through his body. The Confederation had encountered mechanical life forms before, but nothing of this scale, and they've been dormant until now. Reed nodded. "Mostly. Small fleets like the one you faced are scouts. They search, they probe, and when they find weakness, they call the rest. That's why we've spent generations fortifying ourselves, so we'd be ready when they come." The seeds of alliance. The conversation shifted, and Vaylor's tone grew more direct. "Admiral, if the Harbingers truly pose a threat to the entire galaxy, then secrecy serves no one. This knowledge must be shared." Reed leaned forward, his holographic image imposing. "I agree, Captain. But sharing this information puts us all at risk. Once the Harbingers know we're united, their response will be swift and devastating." Vaylor's luminous eyes met Reed's unflinching gaze. "Then we have no choice. The Confederation must prepare, and humanity must guide us. You've faced them. You understand them." Reed hesitated, then nodded slowly. "If we do this, Captain, it won't just be an alliance. It'll be a war council. Every species will need to contribute, and every weakness will need to be addressed." Vaylor felt the gravity of the moment. The Confederation had long prided itself on exploration and diplomacy, But this was a call to arms, something their peaceful nature had never fully embraced. "We'll need proof," Veller said finally. "Evidence to convince the High Council. He'll never agree without it." "You'll have it," Reed replied. "Our archives are extensive. I'll transmit key data to your ship, but I'll warn you, Captain, it won't be easy to watch." Echoes of the Harbingers. When the transmission ended, Veller returned to the Luminara's bridge. The mood was somber as the crew awaited his orders. Yerna approached, her compound eyes reflecting concern. "Captain, what did the Admiral say?" she asked. Veller took a deep breath. "The Harbingers are a threat unlike any we've faced. Humanity has been fighting them for generations. Now, it's our fight too." The bridge fell silent. Each crew member processed the revelation in their own way. Veller gestured to the communications console. "Prepare to receive classified data from the humans. I want our analysts working on it immediately." As the data began to stream in, the Luminara's main display flickered with haunting images. Barren worlds reduced to ash, colossal Harbinger vessels blotting out the stars, and the aftermath of battles that left entire fleets decimated. The crew watched in stunned silence. "They're relentless," Kren murmured, his barbed arms trembling. "How did the humans survive this?" "They adapted," Veller said, his voice steady. "They turned their weaknesses into strengths. And now we must do the same." A call to action. As the Luminara drifted in the void, Veller stood before his crew, his resolve unshaken. "We've always believed in exploration, in seeking knowledge and understanding. But this is a battle for survival." He looked around, meeting the eyes of each crew member. "The humans have given us a chance to prepare, to unite, and to fight. We will not waste it. Set a course for the Confederation's Central Council. It's time the galaxy learned the truth." The crew responded with a quiet determination. As the Luminara powered up its engines, Velar turned his gaze once more to the stars. Somewhere out there, the Harbingers were waiting. But for the first time, he felt a glimmer of hope. The galaxy would not face them alone. The shattering of certainty. The Luminara soared through hyperspace, its shimmering wake a beacon against the endless void. Captain Veller stood in the command center, surrounded by the quiet hum of the ship's systems. The tension on board was palpable. They were heading straight for the Confederation Council, carrying humanity's warnings and a data cache filled with horrors. Veller's mind swirled with doubt. Would the Council listen? For centuries, the Confederation had known peace. Its members prided themselves on diplomacy and exploration. Convincing them to prepare for war felt as alien as the humans themselves. "Captain," Yerna's voice broke his thoughts, her tone unusually grave. "You need to see this." Velar turned to the main display, where the data from the humans continued to unfold. Images of Harbinger destruction played like a grim theater, worlds burned to cinders, fleets torn apart, and vast Harbinger constructs eclipsing entire star systems. But it was the next image that froze Velar in place. A small Harbinger vessel, eerily similar to those they had faced at the outpost, was recorded hovering above a lush blue and green planet. The footage was old, grainy, and unmistakably human. "Earth," Velar murmured, his tendrils tightening in disbelief. "Yes," Yerna confirmed. "This footage is from their archives. The Harbingers found Earth over a century ago. The humans not only survived, they drove them back." Humanity's darkest hour. Velar leaned closer to the display, his voice a mix of awe and curiosity. "How did they do it?" Yerna scrolled through the logs, her compound eyes scanning the dense human text. "The details are sparse, but it seems they relied on sheer ingenuity. They repurposed civilian ships, created unconventional tactics, and used their planetary defenses to their advantage." "And they won?" Velar asked, incredulous. Yerna hesitated. "Not entirely. The Harbingers retreated, but the cost was staggering. Earth's surface was scared, entire cities were lost, and humanity was pushed to the brink. But they adapted. Their technology and strategy evolved because they had no other choice. Veller's chest tightened. Humanity's resilience was undeniable, but it was born from suffering and desperation. The Confederation, sheltered and untested, would not fare as well without radical change. "We must make them understand," Veller said, his voice resolute. "The Council must see this. The Council's indifference." The Confederation Council chamber was a sprawling dome of light and sound, its walls lined with delegates from dozens of species. The air buzzed with the harmonious hum of translation devices, but today's session was anything but harmonious. Veller stood at the center, flanked by holographic projections of the Harbinger data. He recounted the events at the outpost, the intervention of the humans, and the growing threat lurking in the void. Admiral Reed's recordings played in the background, showing the destruction wrought by the Harbingers. When Veller finished, silence fell over the chamber. Then a low murmur began to rise, rippling through the delegates like a restless tide. Finally, one of the senior counselors, a tall crystalline being named Valthus, rose to speak. "Captain Veller, your claims are extraordinary, but they are based on the testimony of a single species, one with no established credibility in our records." "They have credibility where it matters," Veller countered. "They faced this threat and survived. Their technology and strategy are proof enough of their experience." Another counselor, a reptilian figure with a long, sweeping tail, hissed in skepticism. "And yet, their methods seem brutish. Warships, weapons of mass destruction. The Confederation has thrived through peace and unity. What you propose threatens that balance." Veller's tendrils quivered with frustration. "What I propose ensures our survival. The Harbingers will not negotiate. They will not be swayed by diplomacy. If we do not prepare, they will consume us." The chamber erupted into heated debate. Some delegates sided with Veller, their voices raised in urgency. Others dismissed his warnings, clinging to the belief that the Confederation's ideals would shield them. A desperate proposal. Veller stepped back, his frustration boiling over. The Council's refusal to act was not just short-sighted. It was suicidal. He looked to Yerna, who stood at his side, her expression as grim as his own. "Captain," she said softly, "they're not ready to listen." "Then we'll make them listen," Veller replied, his voice low but firm. He turned to the central console and activated a new section of the human data cache. The chamber's lights dimmed as the display lit up with holograms of the Harbinger fleet, a vast, interconnected swarm of vessels, each one larger and more menacing than the last. "This," Veller said, his voice cutting through the noise, "is what awaits us if we fail to act. The humans have faced them before, and they barely survived. Do you think the Confederation, untested and unprepared, will fare any better?" The chamber fell silent once more. Veller pressed on, his tone fierce. "If the Council will not act, then let the Luminera act in its place. We will return to the humans. Together, we will prepare. And when the Harbingers come, we will stand ready, with or without your support." The boldness of his statement sent ripples through the chamber. Some delegates looked outraged, others thoughtful. Veller didn't care. He had said what needed to be said, a glimmer of hope. As Veller left the chamber, Yerna followed close behind. "Do you think it was enough?" she asked quietly. Veller hesitated. "I don't know, but we can't afford to wait for them to decide. Prepare the Luminera for departure. We're returning to the humans." As they made their way back to the ship, a message came through on Veller's communicator. It was from Valthus, the senior counselor who had initially dismissed his claims. "Captain Veller," Valthus said, his crystalline voice softer now, "there are those among us who see the truth in your words. You may have allies yet. Go to the humans. Learn what you can. And when the time comes, we will stand with you." Veller paused, a flicker of relief crossing his face. It wasn't the unified support he had hoped for, but it was a start. "Thank you, Counselor," he replied. "When the time comes, we'll need all the help we can get." As the Luminera prepared to depart, Velar felt a renewed sense of purpose. The galaxy was on the brink of a conflict unlike any it had known. But for the first time, he believed they might have a chance. Together, they could face the darkness and endure. Forging the vanguard. The Luminara emerged from hyperspace above the human-controlled planet Hyperion, a world that gleamed like a polished jewel against the backdrop of space. Its orbital docks were a hive of activity, with countless human ships, sleek destroyers, hulking battleships, and agile fighters, docking, undocking, and undergoing repairs. The sheer scale of their preparations left Captain Velar and his crew awestruck. Velar stood at the bridge, his luminous eyes fixed on the bustling scene. "They're not just preparing for war," he said quietly. "They're preparing for survival." "Captain," Yerna said, her tone tinged with awe, "this level of coordination is extraordinary. It's as if every facet of their society is aligned toward one goal." Velar nodded, but his thoughts were heavy. The humans' resilience was remarkable, yet it underscored a grim truth. The Harbingers were a threat humanity had faced for generations, and still they prepared as if the worst was yet to come. A comm signal interrupted his thoughts. Admiral Reed's image appeared on the main display, his expression as steady as ever. "Captain Velar," Reed began, "welcome to Hyperion. I hope you're ready, because we've got work to do." The coalition is born. The meeting room aboard the human orbital station was stark but functional, its walls lined with holographic projections of star charts, fleet schematics, and Harbinger engagement scenarios. Velar sat at a long table alongside Admiral Reed and a small contingent of human officers. Yerna stood behind him, her compound eyes scanning the data with precision. Reed began without preamble. "We've reviewed your Confederation fleet capabilities. They're impressive in their own way. Advanced propulsion, superior stealth, but they lack the brute force and adaptability required to counter the Harbingers. That's where we come in." Velar raised a brow. "You propose integrating our forces?" Reed nodded. "Exactly. Your stealth technology combined with our firepower creates a force multiplier. But that's not all. We'll need to share tactics, adapt strategies, and most importantly, build trust." Velar leaned back, his tendrils flexing as he considered the proposal. "This alliance will require more than just technology and tactics. Our species think differently, act differently. That will be our greatest challenge." Reed smiled faintly. "Then it's a good thing we've got time to learn. The Harbingers aren't here yet, but they will be. Training for the unthinkable." Over the next several cycles, the Luminara crew found themselves immersed in human training exercises. Yerna was fascinated by the humans' combat simulations, holographic environments that recreated Harbinger engagements with chilling accuracy. Velar observed one such simulation from a raised platform. Below, human pilots and officers moved with precision, coordinating attacks and evasive maneuvers against simulated Harbinger ships. Their tactics were unorthodox, often chaotic, but undeniably effective. "They rely on unpredictability," Yerna remarked, standing beside him. "It's almost as if they weaponize chaos." Velar nodded. "It's a strength born of necessity. The Harbingers adapt quickly. Humans adapt faster." The Confederation crew participated in joint drills, integrating their stealth capabilities with human tactics. At first, the cultural differences led to friction. Confederation officers valued deliberation, while humans prioritized speed and improvisation. But as the exercises continued, mutual respect began to grow. Velar himself worked closely with Admiral Reed, analyzing Harbinger patterns and refining joint strategies. Reed's insight into the Harbingers was invaluable, but it was his unwavering determination that struck Velar most. "You've seen what they're capable of," Velar said during one late-night session. "How do you keep going, knowing what's out there?" Reed's gaze was steady. "Because giving up isn't an option. Humanity didn't come this far to be erased, and neither did the Confederation. A shadow in the void. As the Alliance solidified, News came that sent a ripple of unease through both fleets. A long-range probe sent to monitor Harbinger activity had gone silent. The last data it transmitted was chilling. A massive Harbinger fleet, larger than any previously encountered, moving toward a border system. The room fell silent as the data played on the main display. The Harbinger ships moved with eerie coordination, their numbers seeming endless. Reed was the first to speak. "This changes the timeline. We expected them to probe further before committing. Instead, they're mobilizing." Veller's tendrils tightened in thought. "We're not ready for an engagement of this scale. Even with our combined forces, the odds are against us." Reed's lips pressed into a thin line. "That's why we won't face them head-on. Not yet. We'll hit their supply lines, disrupt their advance, and force them to split their forces." Veller nodded, but doubt lingered. "And if that fails?" Reed's expression was grim. "Then we make our stand here. A united front." Preparations accelerated. Human and Confederation engineers worked side by side, retrofitting ships with hybrid technology. The Luminara itself was equipped with experimental weaponry derived from human designs, its sleek hull now bristling with firepower. The joint fleet assembled in orbit around Hyperion, a breathtaking display of unity. Ships of every size and design, their hulls marked with the emblems of their respective species, floated in formation. It was a sight that filled Veller with both pride and apprehension. On the bridge of the Luminara, Veller addressed his crew. "We stand on the brink of a new chapter in our history. For centuries, the Confederation has sought knowledge and understanding. Now, we fight to preserve it. Together with humanity, we face an enemy that seeks to erase all we hold dear. But together, we will endure." The crew responded with quiet determination, their luminous eyes reflecting the gravity of the moment. As the fleet prepared to jump to the border system, Veller turned to Yerna. "This is more than an alliance. It's a promise, to each other and to the galaxy." Yerna nodded. "And it's a promise we'll keep." With a final command, Veller gave the order. The fleet's engines roared to life, and in a flash of light, they'd vanished into the void, ready to face the darkness together.